Welcome to my corner tea bar. Look at that pretty awesome. What is it called? Not vapor. It's steam. Steam. So I'm gonna say I've been trying to record a video several times today, and I end up going on a rant, man. It's like 20 minutes in. I'm like, oh. So we're just gonna keep it simple. This is Ancient Sun from Blue Willow. I have it in a little Ziploc bag. These are little cakes that come in. I buy them in five packs like that. The 100-gram cakes. This is black tea on a cake. It's not. It's not like a Yunnan uh, black tea thing. Cocoa kind of notes and the rain stuff. You know what I mean? It's got its sweetness, but it can get bitter if you just do too much of it. So the ratio is very important in terms of like don't put too much new leaves. And this one is half new, half from earlier. Don't put too much leaves, too much new leaves, and let it be there for too long. I like Blue Willow teas. They're very good. They're not especially cheap, but well sourced, and it's got a beautiful amber golden color to it. Whoop, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe. Hopefully you're not uh, being blinded there by it. Black tea, also called red tea or Hongcha, is prepared. Is processed by sun drying or withering. I don't know if sun drying for everyone, but I'm assuming that because this one is called Ancient Sun, that I know that they use older trees, like 400-year-old trees and whatever in this in sun, maybe because that's how they withered it, like whitey, wither in the sun. Hong Kong in general is withered first, then roll for like half an hour, wither like 4 hours average, less than half an hour rolling, and then fermented for about 4 hours. Unlike a very fermented tea like Liu Bao, that would be a couple of days of fermentation or more, even. Um, then there is the drying, I believe. Yeah, and that's how you come up with a honcha. That's how you come up with it. It has a tiny bit of like some apricot, peach, a dry apricot peach kind of flavor to it, and slightly dry. If you were gonna compare it with something like a black phoenix, that is like sweet and round and all that. This one is a little bit more sharp. I like it. Definitely a daily drinker. You won't get tired of this tea. One of the teas that actually got me to become very um, adept into tea in the beginning. It was this. It was Ancient Sun. It was from Far Leaves Tea. They have an HYT. I don't remember how it's called. And I had bought some of their rice little cakes. I think I have some here. The coconut torcha somewhere, somewhere here. I think I have them. Oh yeah, look at that. Coconut tiny little tortilla like that. I'm gonna leave one out so I can have it next time. There's a rice cake. So it's basically like a puar, like show puar with some wild rice thing or something. Pretty nice. I love it. My friends say that it smells like old boot, and it does, but it tastes very nice. Not like an old boot somehow. And there was another ripe puar, another fermented puar they had. I don't even remember what it was. Something with all dates, like dates, something. That was something in the name. If you go to their website, you look through the teas, you kind of know like what I'm talking about. I may even put images. That's what I should do. So that's about the tea. Um, as I mentioned, one way I drink certain teas, not oolongs, but black tea or pu'er, even white tea, is that I may have it in the morning, and then when I come back to it, I add a little bit more to it. Yeah, that's unorthodox for sure. In the sense that it will be better if you have a guest come over to just start from scratch. That's kind of like the cultural thing of like not just always put new tea in the thing, in the guy one, or whatever vessel you're using. Sorry if I sound a little congested, but I think I'm getting sick. But that's what I do. And what it does is kind of like softens that sharp, sharp beginning, you know. These are really good teas, so I don't really think I need to rinse them. Um, they claim to have an organic process, which I'm sure that means that they're not putting chemicals or pesticides or stuff like that in it. And you heard a little bit of a slurp there, and I apologize because I'm not part of my culture to be slurping around. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. It is quite gross to hear people slurp when they're tasting tea on videos. To me, at least, not part of my culture to slurp, to be able to come up with flavors or things. Oh yeah, um, I definitely think that it's important that I don't become a gatekeeper in the sense of like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, or whatever. Because like, it's tea, man. People do whatever they want. But 100% can tell you from many years of drinking tea and drinking tea this last probably 7 years like this gong fu cha style and trying to appreciate the flavor, the complexity, or how it feels to drink it, what it does to me, that I do not need to slurp. And that's because how I experienced it, right? So I hope that you take that as encouragement for not doing it, because at some point, what I really want to do is to have a mouthful of tea, right? So perhaps this whole cup right now is at the right temperature for me to use. Basically, when I am putting it in my mouth, I'm getting air because I'm leaving my lip from touching the liquor, but I'm not making it sound. I guess I could be gross and compare it with a burp. When you're on the table and you must have to let some burp out, you do something like that, right? And very, uh, very inconspicuous. And so it's manners. I think that slurping is the same way. Like you don't need to share with everyone the sound of slurping. Like you don't need to share with everyone the sound of a burp. That's pretty mute right there, right? It's not like, oh yeah, that's great. No, that's I'm like, oh. After the third one, I can keep listening to you, brother. You know what I mean? I only hear your slurps, and that's a personal taste. But I think there are more people like that that they have a culture of not slurping, and they just can't connect with people slurping. So there you go. In that exhale, also gives you a lot of notes. This is a bit woody, kind of like how cherry wood is, not spicy but present, little leathery. Also, more leathery than woody actually. Is this going? No, I just put it there. And so I would compare slurping like that to having to sit on the floor. And what I mean by that is if you don't have chairs in your house at all, it's like no couches, no chairs, and you eat on the floor, you eat on a little like coffee table looking thing, you do your laptop thing on a coffee table sitting on the floor, you do everything sitting on the floor because that's how it goes, that's your culture. Sure, I get it. Then perhaps sit on the floor when you're having tea. But if you have chairs, I don't see the point of sitting on the floor only for tea. It is cringe. It looks like, and I understand that it's basically just trying to do things that they're supposed to be done, I guess, or having appreciation for the ways of another culture. But honestly, I don't see. I mean, because I've been doing this for a minute, I've been looking. I have been in China, full disclosure. Sorry, but I see people sitting on chairs, and I see that tea houses have chairs. I actually haven't seen an actual Chinese tea house where people are sitting on the floor. So I don't understand why I always see Instagram pictures of white people sitting on the floor while they're having tea. And sorry to bring up the race, but why is that? It's because, and the guy who's serving the tea usually is wearing some Asian shirt that is like one of these like necklace shirts, kind of like hemp looking shirt, buttoned up but without a neck. You know what I'm talking about? Kind of like a kung fu thing. It's a little cringe, man. You know, it's a little cringe. It's like, um, I don't know, like dressing up Japanese to go have sushi, or getting into a Pancho Villa costume to get your tacos. Sorry, I'm having to with myself, so I can be gross. Um, there is a point in which things can be a little bit cringe like that, where especially if something, I mean, is done in a way that is not even like how people are. And two, it's like even if that's fully 100% how people are, but you don't know from there, what are you doing? Okay, so now counter arguments. Look at this. It's surrounded by little guy ones and little pots and whatever. Why I'm not having it? Like I grew up having tea, Western style, with sugar and milk, and not crumpets, but bread with ham and cheese and marmalade, jam, butter at 5. So Chileans, I'm from Chile. Chileans have what we call once, which is tea time. It's like the 11 says, but we have it at 5. Anyways, So I grew up with that. Why am I not having tea like that? Well, because um, the quality of the tea at tea time is not the main focus in my culture, and so we end up drinking CDC type tea, kind of like just the cheapest, industrial stuff that always has the same flavor. Doesn't matter what year, when you buy the stuff, it's always the same, which speaks about the quality. Now, if you get into teas, you get into drinking tea, you realize that there is a process of preparing the tea that comes with the processing of tea that was done before that. And a lot of times, especially like in oolongs, at least I consider that. I feel like you got to learn how to brew it, and that's why there's some dude that actually knows how to brew that stuff so that it doesn't mess it up. There is ratio of water and tea. There is temperature. There is time. There's like a whole thing. And gong fu setup makes it so that you have the right artifacts to do it easily, and then they're pretty, right? And I guess I could use anything. I can use like a couple of cups with any lid or whatever. Yeah, I can actually brew tea having the canting vessel in a brewing vessel in a cup with anything, of course, with mason jars, you name it, I can do with anything. That's not the point. The point is that these things are cute and nice, and it makes it a little bit more interesting, right? So uh, you end up like buying some different designs, and there is a value to it, like, so I would 100% always brew Chopoir, Liu Bao, um, or even like wet storage Ropoir that is dark in a clay pot like that one or this one, or a smoky one. That's my smoky one for Labs and Social or stuff like that, because it really keeps things hot for a long time, And I would use thin glass that I can cool down quickly for green tea, so I don't keep cooking it, right? So I don't know which ones are easier to cool down. Also, like using the guy one for things that I want to cool down, so I can do this and the air can just like come out. Sometimes I use this for green tea, this pot. And there are people that will spend a bunch of money on these things and whatever, but that's why I have them. This is kind of cool. But this is a bar. I'm sitting on a stool. People sit on a stool. I can stand up. To that extent, the utensils and the tea you're drinking makes sense. It's like having a really expensive wine on your coffee mug. I want to get like a nice wine glass set to share with your friends if you're going to be drinking something expensive, right? This is a look. It's part of the process. Do you need to take it as far as like sitting on the floor in terms of tea? That's the thing that I'm like, I don't know. Do you need to slurp the wine? I mean, the wine when you're having it with your friends or a conversation? Not really, So I get it that some people are trying to like give you a very professional tasting online, and they're doing a video and they're trying to like bring the wine thing into this. And I think I'm seeing like actual Chinese people trying to sell their tea, doing these things to, you know, tell you the difference or whatever. Sure, but still gross. The sound is gross. So like, if you're having people over and you're sharing this stuff, westernize it a little bit. Just make it a little bit more comfortable. You know what I mean? So it doesn't look like you're just kind of like caricaturizing a Chinese person and pretending to be a Chinese person, kind of like getting in what is it called, in character. If you were acting. I already put it in my mouth. I put some in my mouth right now. What is it? Vitamin D. It's winter time. We don't get a lot of sun here. We get grumpy and we start ranting, stuff like this. So I'm taking my vitamin D. Yeah, I know. I know. Middle finger, of course. Um, so yeah, that's mainly what I wanted to say about black tea. about slurping and how I think that some of those things are unnecessary. Like, you know, like it may be unnecessary for people to have a setup like this to have their tea time or whatever. It is absolutely unnecessary to have a corner of your house completely destined for tea, like I do. You don't need to do that. You can have just a tray. Like you have a tray and your cups and whatever, put it on the table, have it, put it away. I drink so much tea, dude, that if I had to do that every day or every time I have tea, I'll hate it. I will have it there like on the table. So if I'm gonna have it out anyways, I might as well have it out in a way that it's aesthetically pleasing. So yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'm gonna try to be posting more, but I usually post more in the winter because on the summer I'm out there doing stuff. All right, have a good one.